Hey, it's Norm from Tested.com, and for today's show and tell, I want to talk to you about robots. Well, movie robots. One of my favorite, all-time favorite movie robots is ED-209 from RoboCop 1985, not that reboot that came out last year. ED-209, Enforcement Droid Series 209. It was supposed to be the original RoboCop before they needed the human element, and designed by Phil Tippett Studio. I've seen the original one. They made a life-size ED-209 in addition to the stop-motion maquettes. Now, we also saw the replica of the ED-209 droid at Maker Faire this year. Sean Thorson, an amazing fabricator, made a life-size ED-209, and he used this to judge his scale and to figure out his details. This is NECA Toys ED-209, a 1/10 scale-ish model. Now, 1/10 scale means it's going to be more accommodating, more appropriate for a 7-inch action figure. I think NECA also sells a 7-inch RoboCop, and this is supposed to be comparable to that. And I like it. It's $80. The detail is good. There's some sound effects. I think they did some good job, a decent job with the painting, and some of the weathering. And it's clearly a toy, a pretty good collectible. The dome isn't perfectly rubber. You can tell it's made of plastic. I like it, but I got this because I also want to show you a comparison to a higher-end toy. Hot Toys, a company I've talked about before, they're in Asia, a Hong Kong-based company, also has an ED-209 they just came out with, and it is much bigger. This is the Hot Toys just released ED-209 1/6 scale collectible. Far more expensive. This one was $80. This is 5 times as much as at $400. And there's a reason for that. Of course, I think it's overpriced, but there's a reason that they feel like they can charge that much. One, when you're shopping for toys, you got to look at our high-end collectibles. These were all sculpted and prototyped. Both NECA and Hot Toys made clay sculpts and then broke them apart to cast them and paint them. What Hot Toys at this scale also does is they can choose a different material. For example, this is plastic and that's plastic, but this is like a rubberized plastic, and the texture on top of the dome, it feels much more like what you think the dome of ED-209 is supposed to feel like. The way the light bounces off of it feels like there's like a satellite array inside there, some radar array inside there. It's very, very cool. In terms of the paint job, I like the Hot Toys paint job so much more. This feels more like a gunmetal gray, while this has much more of a bluish hue. Now, the NECA Toys, the paint job on this isn't bad at all. I mean, what they could do with the scale they had in terms of the wiring and the back, there's actually a little more weathering on the back of the NECA figurine. On the back of the vents here, they actually painted the exhaust as if it looked like it was dirtied up on the back of the ED-209. That's not even on the Hot Toys figure. But on the Hot Toys one, just because it's at the scale, they're afforded the ability to do just so much more detail, many more points of articulation. I'm going to spin this around. On the joints here, this is rubberized plastic, so when you actually articulate it, which you can move this around, it actually looks like these are real joints. You can actually scale the ED-209 up and down. This goes up to, I believe, 14 inches tall when this pulled all the way back up. And you have the decals. Now, one of the complaints collectors have of this already, and collectors love to complain, is that Hot Toys didn't pay as much attention to the decals. They got the form and the scale and all the wiring between the legs right. That all looks great, but the decal work could be a little better. I think the decal work is pretty good. In the back here, you see some of the danger labels, the warning labels here with the fingers cut off. That stuff is cool, but when people study the Blu-ray, when the collectors study the Blu-rays and the pre-production photos of the life-size maquette, the life-size ED-209, they found that one had many more decals that are missing here. So they've actually produced their own decals that you can buy on the Sideshow and collectors forums to apply yourself. There are, I think, 29 additional decals you can swap out. For example, here in the back of this warning label, it says dangerous substances right here, but in the actual movie, that decal is not there. There's like a PSI scale label, so that you want to peel that off and replace it with the more movie accurate decal. That's how obsessed the collectors are. I think this is still a lovely, awesome figure. It's more in tune with the stop motion maquette, which I've also seen at Tippett Studio, than it is with the full life-size one. But that's why when you shop for these toys and collectibles, you got to look at the paint job. You got to look at how the seams work. For example, for the NECA toy on the foot here, they have the seam right down the middle, which makes it look a little, more like a toy. But of course, on the Hot Toys one, they've hidden all the flash in the seams where the parts are cast behind, so it looks more like the actual maquette. I mean, this is still plastic, it's not metal, but it looks like the stop motion metal armature that they use for RoboCop. So that's just a little bit about ED209 and these two amazing collectibles. I think they're both great. This one's from NECA, this one's from Hot Toys, and we'll have more on tested.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.